If you work in biopharmaceutical manufacturing or quality, one of the best things you can do to drive reliability in operations is to learn how to craft the perfect problem statement. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do that. Welcome to the GMP Kit YouTube channel, where we talk about right first time manufacturing, optimized batch record review, streamlined deviations, and visualizing your lot disposition processes. All right, so first of all, who is this video for? If you work in manufacturing or quality assurance in the biopharma space, learning how and understanding how to write and articulate a clear problem statement is a fundamental skill for the frontline supervisor. However, if you're a unit operation manager or even operating at the director level as a business unit leader, and you don't know how to write a good problem statement, or you want to know how to write a really good problem statement, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. And let's jump into it here. So, first of all, your ability to solve problems can make or break your GMP manufacturing system. The fundamental idea in lean manufacturing and structured problem solving is problem solving. So you can't solve a problem without understanding what the problem statement is. So a problem statement is going to feed into all of your escalations. So what's wrong? How can you help me? It's going to feed into shift exchanges. So a lot of GMP manufacturing operations are running on a 24/7 schedule. So there are shifts that can go weeks and months where people don't overlap to face-to-face communication. Being able to write a problem statement is going to save time and bring clarity to your shift exchanges. And finally, a problem statement is the proper input into your quality systems. So if you are going to write a deviation, then your investigation is going to start out with a clear problem statement. So it's really important that you understand how to write a problem statement. So before jumping in and talking about how to do it correctly, let's talk for a second about how it's not done correctly so we can differentiate. So the first bad or less than ideal problem statement structure that I sometimes encounter is story time problem statements. So this is a chronological narrative, and it starts out, it's a dark and stormy night, and we walked into the suite, and then this thing happened, and this thing happened, and we thought it might be this, but it wasn't. It was something else, and then we discovered it's this. Story time problem statements exhaust the reader. So if you're let's say you're on the quality side, you're a deviation approver, or let's say you're an executive trying to figure out what the heck happened last night in manufacturing, the last thing you want to hear is story time problem statements. Chronology doesn't help. It creates confusion, and it brings a lack of clarity that can cause people on the recipient side of the information to determine the incorrect problem statement or to trigger the solving of the wrong problem. So story time problem statement, it's a technique. It's definitely not the best. I'm going to show you a better way. Next type of problem statement is the diluted problem statement. So this is when something happens, but for whatever reason, people soften it. They don't want to share the bad news. They paint a nice picture, they put a spin on it, and the diluted problem statement can also result in incorrect decisions. Sometimes the solutions or the countermeasures that are put in place are not always ideal, because in a diluted problem statement, if you're in a position where you want to conserve resources, you want to apply the least amount of resources or the least amount of effort to solve a problem so you can move on to other problems. So that diluted problem statement is going to throw you off, and you're going to put the wrong countermeasure in place. So these are a few of the incorrect or less than ideal ways to share a problem statement. Now let's talk about how to do it right. So how I recommend doing it, and this is something that I've learned over the years. It works for me. The last thing I want to do, if you got something that works for you, is stand up here and preach, right? But if you don't have a methodology, you don't have a framework you use, this is the one I use, and it works great. So the first thing I do, I basically combine 3 different frameworks. I start out with the object defect, if you've ever heard of that. the expected state, the actual state, and then the 5W. So let me show you what they are. Hang on just a minute. All right, framework number one, object defect. So if I am writing a problem statement, I want to lead off with the very first sentence, making it as clear as possible what the problem is. So I use the object defect methodology. The object is the thing, and the defect is the thing that's broken about the thing. So let's pretend or imagine for a minute that we have a bioreactor, a single-use bioreactor that leaks. So if you're familiar with bioreactors, they're essentially biological processes that occur inside of a contained plastic bag. And it's critical in order to maintain sterility that the bag doesn't leak. So a leak in a single-use bioreactor is a problem. So if I'm constructing that problem statement, I'm going to, whether this is email, it's a shift escalation, or it's a deviation, I'm going to put that as the very first sentence in my technical writing. There's a leak in the bioreactor bag. I'm going to start out with that. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to compare the expected state to the actual state. So in this case, the expected state comes from a standard operating procedure, a policy, a specification. There is some sort of written standard that's going to lay down the expected state. And then I'm going to differentiate that. The actual state is the departure from the expected state. It's the departure from the standard. So now in my problem statement, I've got the object defect. There's a leak in the bioreactor. SOP 1234 requires that the bag be integral in order to maintain sterility. Actual state, there's a leak at the DO probe. All right, so now I could even improve that. I can say the actual state, there's a leak at the DO probe that breaks the integrity of the bag. So now I'm really clear. I've got the object, the defect, the expected state, the actual state. Now the last thing I'm going to do, and you can think of this as process confirmation. I'm going to add in, or I'm just going to check what I've written, and I'm going to run down the 5 W's. So the first thing I'm going to ask is who observed the problem. I want to make sure who's in there so that people can get back to that person and ask questions if they need to. What did they observe? Typically, you capture that in the object defect, but I'm going to check that just to make sure. When did they observe it? Time is important. So when was the problem discovered? Where did they observe it? If you have a single bioreactor in your whole company, then that can serve as location. But you might have 5 bioreactors in a suite, or you might have 5 suites with 5 bioreactors. So it helps to understand where was it observed so that anybody who reads this problem statement can go to that place. They can run a Gemba walk. They can see what happened. And then finally, why? Now, this is a really important aspect of why. If you know why, you know absolutely why, and it's factual, you want to include that in your problem statement. But what you don't want to do is speculate. So if I see a leak in the bioreactor and I caused the leak, I actually I broke something and I know for a fact that's what happened, I'm going to include that in there because that way people don't waste time solving the wrong problem. They know exactly what the root cause is. But if it appears that someone may have mishandled the bag, if I talk about that, I'm going to speculate. I'm going to say it appears that this happened, or I'm going to say our current working hypothesis is that that's what happened, but I don't know that. So if you incorrectly state things as factual that are not, you're going to send people down a wrong trail, and it's not going to be helpful. So whenever you talk about why, some people don't even talk about why, and I think you can do better than that. I think that it helps to have more information. You just have to make sure that it's clear that it's fact or it's speculation. All right, now let's bring this all together. So basically, what we're doing here is we're taking 3 frameworks and we're bringing them into one problem statement formula. We're using object defect, the thing, and the thing that's broken about the thing. the expected state and the actual state. We're going to contrast those two and make it really clear what the difference is. And then we're going to do a little confirmation, and we're going to run through the 5 W's to make sure that all the information's there. All right. So what does this look like? Here is an example output using our problem statement formula. So on 27th of May 2024, John Doe discovered bioreactor XYZ was leaking at the DO probe port. SOP 1234 requires the bioreactor to be integral upon installation. The leak is indicative of a breach in the sterile envelope. So we've got object defect in the first bullet, we've got expected state in the second bullet, and we've got the actual state in the third bullet. We go through, we've got who, we've got what, we've got when, we've got where. This company has only one bioreactor, so we're going to call that where. And then we didn't say why because we don't know why. And there you go. That is the problem statement formula. So thinking about learning. Learning is a combination of education, experience, and exposure. If you've completed this video, you have the education. You know how to do this. You've got a framework in your back pocket. Experience comes from repetition. If you start crafting your problem statements using this formula every time, you're going to get faster and faster at it. And then exposure is all of the different curveballs that you see. So that's practice, basically crafting different problem statements in different scenarios. But if you stick with this solution and you develop those 3 things, you're going to become very, very good at writing problem statements. And that is going to make you more effective communicator. And it's going to speed up the process of problem solving in your organization. So to wrap this up, please take a moment to like and subscribe this video. If you liked it, hit the like button for me, please. If you didn't like it, go ahead and hit the didn't like button, but leave me a comment and tell me how I can do this better. I'm all about continuous improvement, and I'd love to know.